Alright, so this video is to show you how to do a little bit of burning and dodging in Pixlr X. And you may be saying, what in the world does that mean? So in photography, and at first I'm just going to open up this image here. In photography, we use words like burning and dodging to talk about changing the tones in an image. And this comes from darkroom work. So sometimes we have images with spots like this here that are too light. This photograph was exposed for all of these tones in here, and this looks great, but these little parts up here are too bright. And so we want to bring those tones down, and we would call that burning anytime that we want to make part darker. Now Pixlr X does not use that terminology, though other editing software does, like Photoshop and Lightroom and almost everything else that I've seen. Burning and dodging are the words that came from the darkroom, and most photographers that started working in digital worked in the darkroom first. So that's where those terms come from. Here in Pixlr, down here, we go to retouch. So this is where we're going to find our burning and dodging tools. Here's healing. Here's a lovely ad we want to get rid of. Healing, cloning, sharpen, blur, none of those are we really going to talk about at this point in time. Dodge and burn. Oh, look at that. It actually calls it that. But when I click on it, it talks about lighten and darken. So it does call it dodging and burning here, but then you don't know what's burning and what's what's burning and what's dodging. So burning is actually darkening an area, and then in Pixlr we have to choose what range. So our dark or shadows, our mid-range, or our light, and these are light areas. If you hear funny noises, that is one of my dogs in the background. Ah, yes. So that's just funny. He's like, right now I want attention. So the next thing we're going to do, we're going to decide what mode we want, lighten or darken, what range, the brush. So I strongly suggest a brush that's got this softness to it. That's the standard 50%. If we made it a little bit softer, that might actually help it blend a little bit more. This is the size of our brush. You can't really see it in, oh look there, when I released the tab, then it did let me see the size of my brush. And I'm going to go with something pretty good sized here because I can kind of see that size here as well. And I'm going to pull this down, and then the strength. So I've learned with Pixlr, a little goes a long way, and I think that goes for a lot of editing, where their one strength is actually a significant amount. So I'm going to make this a little bit bigger because I would like to work with kind of broader strokes here. It's just easier than trying to make it even with something small. So you can see I'm looking at the size of my area here, and we might just max it out at 500. So I am simply clicking and dragging, and you can see that as I move my cursor around, it brings those tones down just a little bit. Now because it was overexposed, I'm not really getting detail in there, but it is a little bit less distracting. So that's burning. You're gonna want to make sure that if you're if there's not really any detail there, you're not going to get detail. But like over here, someplace that's like this thing right here that's kind of bright, and I might want to just kind of bring that tone down just a little bit. So now it's more in line with the things around it. I could even do it just again. I would suggest, instead of going to a higher strength, using a lower strength and going over it more than once to get what you want out of it, like these here. So sometimes my dog gets really loud. Sometimes we're not going to get what we want out of this. Like if I make this darker, it's just going to kind of start looking a little bit funky. This is probably the most that I could do here. And then I might pull this down a little bit. And the only problem is that if I take all of my highlights out, my whole image starts to look a little dead. So I'm going to kind of come back. One thing often affects another. Get rid of that add. It's the only drag about Pixlr in the free form. So I might push my whites back a little bit. And I might make my blacks a little stronger just to bring a little bit more variation in these tones. And I can kind of more generally make my shadows a little brighter, my highlight, did that backwards. Highlights a little brighter, shadows a little darker. And it just starts to bring out the different variations in this image. Another way for me to deal with these two areas up here, I'm going to click apply, would be to crop them out. Sometimes really that's the best thing to do if we've got something that's bright on our edges, is to simply crop those little buggers out. So let's see what happens. And I do lose a certain amount, like I kind of don't feel like cropping that out right there. So I have to make some decisions sometimes. That's better. I'm gonna apply that there. So now I have less of those white areas to feel distracted by. I've got more things going on here that are interesting. I can also do one more thing in Pixlr. Where is it? Effect. No, filter. And in filter I have my vignette. And so a vignette is something that applies equally all around the whole, all of the edges. And a vignette typically is a darkening. So if I just add a little bit of a vignette, it kind of helps bring all of my edges down and brings my attention back to the middle. And that's actually something that we can do in the darkroom as well. And I find that it helps a lot when we've got distracting things on the edges. So I'm going to close this image. I'm going to show you how some of these things might apply in another image. So here we have another image that has some kind of distracting things on the edges, a little bit of lightness. And even though this isn't super light, it's not as dark as it could be in this background. So I could do a little bit of burning back there. Down here is my retouch. Here's my dodging and burning. And so here I'm going to darken and my dark tones, or actually my mid-tones, because the tones that I want to bring down are really kind of middle tones. I still have my quite large, quite soft, low strength. And so if I do it here, it's definitely more subtle. If I undo and you look at that area, you can see how it got a little bit lighter. And I'm going to make the strength on this now a little bit more. We'll see what 4 does here. And it does a certain amount. You can tell that when we're doing this kind of thing in like darkening dark tones, it can handle more strength. And then also if we make the dark tones, and I come back in here and do it again, oh, now you can see there's a great big hard line that I just added in there. So this, undo, I'm just kind of going back. Over here we've got the history. We can see what I was doing right here. Pretty cool. Let's make sure that I actually have my 500 pixel. We can take away some of the softness. So a lot of this is going to be a little bit of trial and error. You're like, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. Oh no, see, that's way too dark and hard. So I don't want it that strong. I'm going to try the midtones because I feel like that was working better. So you can see that this is kind of a hard thing unless you're like got this super good control with your mouse or your scratch pad. This could be a little difficult to do. Okay, so I'm going to undo that again because I'm really not liking that. And I'm going to go back to my friend the vignette. There we are, filter, vignette, and goodbye, add. And so if you watch this corner here and watch this area here too. So back to the 0 and pull this in just enough so that now this is not distracting. All of the highlights are remaining in this area here, which is where we really want the attention to be, right? This stuff is distracting, this stuff is distracting. And that's why we're adjusting our tonal values, is to get rid of distracting things. So I'm going to hit apply here, and I'm going to say I'm going to close that. I'm not saving this to my computer. And let's see if I can find one more. Let's see if what I can do with burning and or dodging here. So this is another area that's pretty bright up here. And I'm going to see how successful I can be. So again, I want to darken. I want to affect the light tones. I really find it easier with a larger brush. And I know that when I'm dealing with light tones, I don't want to have a lot of strength here. Softness will make it blend easier. So let's see if I can make this work. And again, that's very small and kind of hard. So honestly, this is one of those things that's easier in the darkroom, and I'm going to say I'm going to undo that. So you're going to find that some of these things are not really easy to control, and that's okay. But you can try our friend the vignette. But just so if you see, I can just do a little bit here, and it again, it's bringing all of these edges. This stuff was a little bright. So a lot of times we're going to find something that's too bright on our edges, and just a little bit of a vignette will help us. Okay. So those are the things I want you to look at. Don't worry about it being perfect, though. what this tells us too is that this was overexposed, which was easy to do because this was shot with my cell phone, not something I had a lot of control over. This was one of those quick shots with my cell phone, but it's good to do practice editing on it because they're not perfect photos, and frankly yours probably won't be either. So this is how you can kind of see and learn. So I hope this helps you understand a little bit about controlling different tonal values on your images. And if you have any questions, you know how to get in touch with me.